god, guys.
After much fan appreciation and outcry for the character to be brought justly to the big screen after the atrocity that was X-Men Origins Wolverine, we finally got Deadpool, and trust me, this was definitely one of the most anticipated movies of the year for me, and knowing that it was coming out so early in the year just made that wait feel much more appreciated because, oh my god, it's just right around the corner. But the fact that it was coming out in February, it was coming from Fox, who is very notorious for butchering certain projects, especially ones that people were waiting to see, and the fact that very late in the game I figure out that this movie is actually only an hour and 45 minutes, which to me is against the norm for superhero movies nowadays because they're generally around 2 hours, maybe even 2.5 hours. I did have just some ounces of skepticism for whether or not this movie could truly be pulled off. Plus, one of the things that did make me just a little scared is that the majority of the trailers barely showed any brand new footage. They would show the similar shots over and over of him being on the highway, or just certain snippets of him in his past life with his love interest and with him going through the experiment, and just the same jokes over and over. And that made me fear that maybe they were just holding back the rest of the movie because they were scared of what they had on their hands. But on the other hand, I was trying to be optimistic and be like, okay, maybe it's because that other stuff is R-rated and it's genuinely good. Fortunately, it is the latter, because holy fucking shit, I loved this movie. I was laughing all the way through it. They got Deadpool right. And I think one of the reasons for why this movie did the character justice is because not only Ryan Reynolds is playing said character, but he produced the movie along with the guy who directed this named Tim Miller, who was responsible for that brief CGI short that was leaked online from, I think it was Comic-Con or something like that. It was like test footage. That guy was then put in charge of the entire thing, along with Ryan Reynolds, who loves the character, producing. And that alone was the formula that brought us a movie that did the character justice by breaking the fourth wall, never shutting up, and bringing us just amounts of humor that hit every single time, that is crass and raunchy and vulgar, but not always. Like, if I was to create some kind of ratio for the jokes that are raunchy in this movie, is about a good 60% to 40% being humor that is mainly pop culture references, or just something really smart and quippy that just catches you off guard, combined with a formula that really works in you loving the character. Because I already knew enough of the character to go into this movie with some high hopes that were fortunately met. But just the same, you bring somebody that kind of heard of the character before but wasn't in love with it. Those people might just fall in love with the character as well, because this movie starts off with Deadpool actually finding, or at least trying to find, the guy who made him what he is. The whole plot of the movie is him trying to track down the guy who put him into the program that turned him into a superhuman being, except there were some consequences that put his loved one in jeopardy, and so he's trying to find the guy that is the cause of all that. And the movie kicks off with that, but then as the movie progresses, we see flashbacks of what made him into Deadpool in the first place, and where he came from, and why he was a mercenary, and how he exactly interacts with this love interest played by Morena Baccarin from Gotham. And the formula just works. The cutbacks work, where they lay it on the ground saying that this guy is not meant to be a superhero, but you still grow to love him because of the shit that he went through, and because he still has a little bit of a heart covered inside of this raunchy being, even after he goes through the mutation process and gets all fugly. Even beyond that, you still see some kind of heart beating inside there, no matter how many people he has literally killed. And that the movie is pretty much kind of an embodiment of that, where sure, it's raunchy, but we are going to give you some character development. And I just loved every single facet of this movie. And the running time, which I mentioned I was kind of skeptical for, because movies are the superhero movies are generally between 2 to maybe 2.5 hours long, sometimes even longer if you put it in the hands of Zack Snyder or Christopher Nolan. But here it worked to its advantage, because not once does this movie drag. It just goes on and on and on, and It never, like I said, never is this a bad thing towards the movie. It really works. And I'm not saying that there's never been a superhero movie that has been on the shorter side. I mean, the first X-Men movie, I believe, was about an hour and 40 minutes, and that was a great superhero flick. And segue, speaking of the X-Men, they do a fantastic job of working in the X-Men universe without cramming every single X-Men into the movie. And they even make a joke out of that without going into, because that's one of the things, is that besides story spoilers, there's also joke spoilers that I just do not want to give away, and want to give you another reason to go see the movie, is that some of the humor in this movie is just too funny to just not say it on camera. So I'm going to hold back from wanting to do that. But besides making a joke as to why there's no more other X-Men in this movie besides Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. There you go, I got it right. Besides those two, those are the only two X-Men that we truly need to form this team that has just great chemistry, with Deadpool being the guy that says, fuck all that X-Men bullshit, and Colossus wanting to be the guy that is goody two-shoes. He's super powerful, but he'll follow the rules of engagement when it comes to a fight, and also tries his best to recruit Deadpool into the X-Men program, but he just doesn't roll that way. And just the chemistry and getting the characters right just works to its advantage, down to certain details, like, for example, not only is the costume practical and looks accurate to the part, but they even make the eyes squint and move with a little bit of CG magic to give it that Deadpool persona. There's some face, I mean, he's wearing a mask, and yet his mask is emoting more so than even, I mean, I'm not saying Ryan Reynolds did a bad job, because obviously Ryan Reynolds is to Deadpool as Robert Downey Jr. is to Tony Stark, where at a point those actors don't even exist anymore. It's just the characters. And I'm not saying that Ryan Reynolds didn't do a stupendous job not only playing Deadpool in the costume, but also playing Wade Wilson, the human being, where he does have a heart, and this heart does belong to this other woman, so you have that aspect to cling on to that makes you like the character, despite the fact that he kills people for a living. And paying attention to all these details is what made the movie work. And besides that, I am legitimately having difficulty trying to find anything in this movie that I did not like, because the pacing is great, the action sequences were great, the humor was top notch. But what I loved even more is that Deadpool, as well as the characters around him, weren't empty shells. There's these other supporting characters that are not meant to be superhuman, like T.J. Miller, who is an actor, who is the type of actor that if you give him the wrong role, he can easily become annoying. But thankfully in this movie, I liked him all the way that I legitimately want to see him in the sequel. I really hope that they don't push him to the side, as well as this blind woman that I kind of hoped they would have worked more into the movie, but she was given just the right amount. And like I said, I'm trying to find things to nitpick about the movie, and when I think I have one, like a segment in the third act where Deadpool, as the costumed vigilante, doesn't appear so much as Ryan Reynolds as Wade Wilson. But like I said, during those moments, we have character development. We have a turning point that works for the movie. And at times I was kind of hoping that they would reference other movies or bring us more of that fourth wall breaking humor. But they gave us just the right amount to not kind of ham it up, because then we get Deadpool the video game. And Deadpool the video game had some genuinely laugh out loud moments, but I'm gonna be honest, they had a couple of moments where I felt like they were trying just a tad bit too hard. And Deadpool nailed that perfect balance. If there was one thing that I could legitimately complain about the movie, is that I was hoping that with the fourth wall breaking element to the film, because it is Deadpool, I was hoping that Morena Baccaran's character, I keep blinking on her name, I'm really bad with names, but her character, I was kind of hoping she would do something just a little more besides being the damsel in distress. She does do one thing that kind of distracts the villain, like the damsel sometimes does in movies, but it kind of just doesn't go nowhere. So I was kind of hoping that they would do something a little bit more surprising with her than what she ended up doing in the movie, because at the end of it, she was kind of a damsel in distress, a baby mama in distress, as Deadpool would put it. Besides that, there's nothing much more that I can say without giving it away, except saying that Deadpool is one of the experiences of this, the first experience of this year that you need to see up on the big screen with a group of people that hopefully will not talk during the movie, because if they do, there's a really likely chance that Deadpool himself will turn to the camera and say, "Shut the fuck up." So I give Deadpool a solid 9 out of 10. Guys, February is becoming the month to release golden gems such as Deadpool. Last year we had Kingsman, and the year before that we had Lego Movie. And I'm just going to say that 2 years in a row, my favorite movie of the year manages to come out in February. So, the rest of the movies for this year do have some stiff competition in Deadpool. And even though this does not belong to the MCU, it does belong to Deadpool, so my recommendation is you do stick around after the end credits. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you guys thought of Deadpool the movie. What are your aspirations for Deadpool 2, since they have already greenlit it and it's in the works. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.